Hey, a good Thursday morning to you. Thanks for logging on here, finding us on Fox 26. I'm meteorologist John Dawson. Let's talk about the weather, giving you a quick update on what we're expecting. As you were walking out the door this morning, you probably noticed a couple things. First of all, a little bit milder temperature-wise. We were anywhere from 8 to 10 degrees warmer this morning compared to yesterday morning. And also, you might have noticed the humidity levels. I don't think it was quite to the muggy level, or at least extreme muggy level, but certainly more humidity out there. And again, I think you might be able to notice it. It wasn't an unpleasant morning necessarily. It's just certainly different than the previous mornings that we've had. And our winds have now turned to the west, to the southwest, and that's actually going to be a little bit of drier air that's going to sort of start moving into the area. We've had a weak front that's coming through the Fox 26 area really right now and through most of the day today, and it's going to be a shifting of winds where we're going to see some minor changes, not looking for the thermometers to change much, and we're not looking for a whole lot of rain, but it's those humidity levels that's going to change a little bit. I expect to see these dew points continue to drop as we go through the day today, indicating that humidity lowering across our area. Now, I want to pause for a moment and kind of give a big picture outlook. Our Climate Prediction Center, it's a part of NOAA that looks at some of the bigger patterns that we see across the world, and of course our part here in the United States. They just issued today their 3-month outlook, which is pretty much the winter outlook for this season. And it's definitely connected in with the El Nino expectations, and we're definitely looking at a very neutral winter here as far as the temperatures go for our area. So again, this is a general big picture for the next 3 months. NOAA puts this out, specifically the Climate Prediction Center within there. And so some parts of our country, the far northeast as well as the far northwest, will be above average on the temperatures, and we're expected to be right about normal, not really looking for any major hot or cold, again, overall 3-month period. So within that 3 months, of course, we're going to have some spots in which it's definitely cold and maybe above average on the temperatures. But on that bigger picture of over the next 3 months, really near normal is what we would expect to find. And remember, they always use a 30-year average as far as what the normal expectations would be. Now let's talk about rain, precipitation. And it's winter, so possibly even frozen precipitation. Won't rule that out. But for sure, the Climate Prediction Center thinking the next 3 months is going to be much more of a wetter pattern than what we've seen. And even compared to what would be normal, we are definitely on the high side of things. We're not on the as extreme as our friends over in the east, southeast, over in Florida, but we are definitely still a little bit above average as far as what we are expecting. So sort of typically with an El Nino pattern, you'd expect it to be cool and wet. This time around, it looks like it's going to be somewhat neutral, not as cold or hot, and then definitely a little bit more on the rain side of things. Okay, again, that was a much bigger discussion. I just wanted to share that with you because, as I mentioned, the Climate Prediction Center released that report today, and I just kind of wanted to get that out there. Let's get more down to what's been happening here locally. First of all, yesterday's high temperatures returned us to average. All week we've been below average on those afternoon highs, finally getting back to where we'd expect to find the thermometers for this date. This morning's lows are still just a little bit cooler than average, but not nearly as cool. Most of us in the 60s instead of the 50s, which is what we've been experiencing. And we talked about that shifting of winds. We've now got just about all of us through this pattern now where we've got north to the northwest or even west as far as those winds are going. That's all drier air, and we're going to expect that to continue to sort of dominate our forecast as we move through the day. So here's a quick futurecast for you, putting our high temperatures in the upper 80s. We'll look for those skies to clear this evening. Those winds even drop a little bit, so that's going to set us up for some of that to be even cooler. So and cooler tomorrow morning than what we saw this morning. So definitely, I think you're going to notice the lower humidity this evening when the sun starts to set, or you find some shade late in the afternoon. Now for tomorrow, we're going to heat it up though with that drier air, maybe even set some record highs. The weekend is definitely looking dry, but next week we kind of have a surge of some Gulf moisture, even some other eastern Pacific moisture that's going to come over and kind of destabilize things just a little bit. Current temperatures here at about 25 minutes until noon. We've got 77 degrees in Huntsville, 81 degrees in Katy, 78 degrees in Pearland, and Galveston setting at a comfortable 80 degrees there on the island. Bigger picture again shows a front that we've talked about moving on through. If you'll notice, as we follow that front all the way up towards the Great Lakes, there's an upper level low that kind of works with that to create some more stormy weather, but even some of the rain getting pulled all the way down to the Gulf Coast, but we are catching the tail end of that front, kind of missing out on that a little bit. Now, what would help with our allergens out there in the air is some rain, and again, we just don't have a lot to talk about as far as the rain goes, and this is sort of the season to see that ragweed for sure to be high. And as far as the tree pollen is concerned, right now it's the elm that we're seeing floating around for the most part. You know, as we move through the fall season, there'll be other types of tree pollen floating around, but it's the elm that we're dealing with right now. Temperature-wise, here's where we're going to peak out, about 88 degrees when we get to the afternoon. So definitely warm, above average, and we get to those clear skies tonight, and that'll allow that optimal cooling. So there are those averages for you. 82 and 60 is where we would expect to find it. Today's record high temperature at 94 degrees, and I don't think we're going to get that today. Tomorrow's high temperature 93. Now, I'm not forecasting that high, but I'm within a couple degrees, and you know how it works here. Southeast Texas, just a little bit of extra sunshine, maybe a little lighter winds, and you could be hitting those record high temperatures. Focusing on rainfall, Southeast Texas over the next 5 days, not seeing a whole lot, but look at who is seeing the rain. This is some much needed rain for this part of the state, as Central Texas has been so dry. So I'm really optimistic that we're going to be able to get a little bit of help in that drought relief over the next 5 days for Central Texas. Again, we're quiet through the weekend, and then even by the time we get to Monday, it's still scattered to isolated showers. It's not going to be anything widespread or too much of a downpour. So as we mentioned, as we go through the day again, we'll see that heating, that daytime heating take place, and then we get into tonight. We'll get down to around 60 degrees, so just a touch cooler than maybe what we saw this morning overall for everybody. And then we're warming ourselves up for another day, maybe even setting a few of those record highs as I was talking about. So we're talking about that 10% chance of rain. Primarily that was when the front was moving through. So I don't think we're going to see any rain for today. Those winds actually should be out of the southwest. I'll have to get that corrected here before we get into the noon show, but we'll look for those warmer temperatures to continue to be a part of our discussion as we're moving through the weekend. And then here are those rain chances. As I said, we have some possibilities of rain on Monday, but it's really Tuesday and more likely even Wednesday before things get a little bit less stable. And then I think we'll have another front moving through towards the end of the week, so even like Thursday and Friday, which will stir things up even more and increase chances of rain for next week. But for now, we're dry and we're certainly warm. So outdoor activities, I think, are a go. Just be ready for, again, a little bit of heat as you're kind of moving through whatever you have to have planned for this weekend. All right, that'll do it for this morning's update. Make sure that you get back here, however you're watching, on the Fox Local app or you're on your device. We'll be back here at noon.